Talk Show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 615. My name is Eric Nelson, and with me, I have my favorite co-host, Corey Romero. Today is Wednesday, July 27th, 2022. Corey, how you doing?
Doing well, Eric. Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful weather here in the Bay Area. Nice and warm. Color of the bay is a nice, just solid green, not too windy. Just a typical 4 feet deep green bay, as we say. On the show today, we're going to be talking to Vittorio Viarengo. I don't know how to say his last name. He's here with us. We're going to be talking about multi-cloud and super cloud. Vittorio's been doing some really cool events. I know a lot of you have seen the videos that are out there where they're talking about multi-cloud, and I think they're going to be working with John Furrier and the cloud, the Cube. We're going to have him on next week or the week after next to talk about the super cloud event that Vittorio and many other industry leaders are going to be there. So we got Vittorio here today. Vittorio, we'll get to you in a second. Before we do that, let's just do a couple shout outs to the news. Schedule Builder is open. Go get registered for VMware Explore. We have the code sessions that we're going to be running with the Intel NUCs for your home lab and smart sensors. We got Bill Roth doing the Tanzu on the Intel NUCs as well. So go check out those. Code 2769 and code 2770, the session IDs. The code 2769 with the smart sensors for home has been sold out since about day 2. I am going to be going in and putting in extra seats in there. I will do that next Wednesday. So if you're listening to this, you can go into Schedule Builder if you want to pick up those extra seats. I think I'm going to be adding an extra 100 seats to those labs because they are sold out. Europe, November 7th through the 10th. You can register for that as well. And US 29th through the 1st. That's the news. Corey, anything on vExperts, or are we good to go over and chat with Vittorio?
I've got a handful of things on vExperts. Let me go over it real quick. So vExpert call for blogs on VMware Explore went out. We received 10 articles so far. We're going to start promoting those this week up until the shows. VMware Explore US blogger passes have been passed out. I do have a couple passes left. If you're a blogger and you're interested, please email me, cromero@vmware.com, and let's talk blogger passes. We are going to have a BAP, which is Blogger Early Access Program meetings with the VMware Comms team. Those will happen just a handful of days before the US show and before the Europe show. And that happens for just a handful. I think it's 15, 20 vExperts. So we'll notify those vExperts as we get closer. We are having also a blogger meetup at VMware Explore US and Europe. More details to that to come, but you will be able to meet some of the key VMware influencers in person at both shows. I'm also going to be doing a session at VMware Explore US and Europe on the vExpert program and how to become a vExpert. So stay tuned to those.
Yeah, sounds great. And we did order the NUCs for all the vExperts that signed up on the vExpert app. So if you did sign up and you don't come to Explore to get your NUC, we are going to give it away to somebody else, right? Or so make sure a lot of you signed up. I think we had 380, 400 vExperts signed up to come to VMware Explore US in San Francisco. So make sure you attend and make sure you come down to the booth and say hello to us and pick up your NUC and then come by the lab. We're going to be giving away free sensors. I've ordered like 1,000 sensors for your home NUC environment. So you can come pick that up and have some fun while you're at VMware.
And shout out to NetApp for helping us fund these Intel NICs. NetApp had put in some money towards these. So shout out to NetApp and thank you.
Yeah, and then we had somebody else internal also give us some money for that as well. So
the VMware vExpert Avi program. So Pam and Steve, who run that, helped fund that as well. So shout out
Absolutely. To NetApp and Avi for that help as well. All right, let's get to Vittorio. I know you got a half an hour, and then we're going to have also Pam come talk to us as well and give us some insight on what's happening multi-cloud for Explore. So Vittorio, we always start with do the 2-minute elevator pitch. How long you've been in the VMware IT industry ecosystem? What's your career arc look like in a couple of minutes?
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer by trade. I did a startup in Italy. I'm not just faking the accent. I'm actually from Italy. And then I sold it to an American company. Long story short, I joined VMware in 2009. I was here for 4 years running product management for end user computing. And then I did a couple of startups, namely Mobile Iron, Sky High. And then I came back to VMware 2 or 3 years ago to help Raghu and the team reposition the company in the cloud. So that's my
Nice.
short story. So I went from being an engineer to, working with engineers, kind of guide them to what to build in product management, and now just choose color for pretty slides.
So we did have Laura Heisman on last week, and in her background, I think she had some musical history as well. I think she got a music degree from university, and I see a lot of guitars in your background. And we discussed last week how so many of us in IT have musical backgrounds of one type or another. And then we just noticed that if you're watching this on VBarbecue on YouTube.com/VBarbecue, you'll see him, Vittorio, live with guitars, piano. You got a whole music set in the background there.
Yeah, I'm also a certified music teacher, but I studied the clarinet, and so that clarinet is not very conducive to performance or cool stuff. And so over the years, I taught myself all the instruments, which I use today is mostly to do high-tech parodies, like the multi-cloud rock anthem, which is out there, and things like that. But no, but on a serious note, there are two things that I think are interesting about music and software and engineering. I think it's music at the core is numbers. It's all about numbers. Now, then you put the interpretation and the feeling on top of it, but at the very basic, both the harmonies, the way the notes work with each other, well or not, it's all math. And then the rhythm, it's all math. So that's one aspect that I think ties together engineers and people that are technically inclined in music. But I think the thing that I really love about music that gives you a bunch of teaching for life is that music and sports really teach you the value of deliberate practice. If you don't know how to do something and you practice long enough, you're going to learn. And so that's why I'm so hooked to music and try to inspire my kids to be as well.
I think there's a third thing that I always feel about music is it's all in your head. And software, a lot of times you have to have this stuff in your head as you're, architecting or figuring things out. It's a very mental process, right? So
absolutely. I think that there's nothing like having something in your head and then through software you make it
turn it into something. Yeah.
And music is the same. It's something in your head. If you're good enough, then you can turn it into music. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get on to the conversation today. We know about multi-cloud. We saw your multi-cloud events. And by the way, congratulations on the latest one. I heard the numbers that you guys had on the views on your multi-cloud event. We do them every quarter. We talk about him here on the show. We give you guys a shout out. But the last one you did was really good. And I heard the numbers were like really well on the number of views on the shows.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of us learning how to reach the audience and also having topics that people care about, right? So when we just did one for the vSphere Plus launch, that got 5 million views and 500,000 people watched the entire thing. And so that is a testament to the fact that there's such a thirst for information about our heritage product, right? vSphere and vSAN and all that good stuff. And then we did one on security that has now at 4.3 million views, which is phenomenal. Again,
that's a huge number. That's a huge number compared to like our typical videos do like 10,000, right? Like that would be a standard video. And I have to smile because the only time we've ever hit those kind of numbers was like 10 years ago when we hired John Freer in the Cube and he put us on a Spike TV channel somewhere, right? And we got like 1.5 million views, but they were all children watching cartoons or something.
Yeah,
right?
that's why whenever we see these views, I always do the double click, right? So how long do people engage with the videos? And in average, I mean, we found that in a Zoom ridden world, the right length of an asset is like 35, 40 minutes. And of these 40 minutes, in average, people watch 12, 13 minutes, which is a lot. And then we look at how many people actually watch the whole thing. And so those numbers tell us that there is a lot of interest in multi-cloud and what we're doing with our cross-cloud service strategy.
Yeah, that's good. And I will do a shout out to the URL. It's actually on VMware.com's website, front page, above the fold, just below the Explore banner. There's a now streaming July multi-cloud briefing, and yours truly, Vittorio, is there on the picture. And if you click on that, it takes you to a long URL. But just go to VMware.com's front page, and you get to go watch that session. It was an excellent session. And I love the blog where you actually give view of all the speakers and their agenda. So it's you guys have matured on how you're presenting these stuff, recruiting speakers, giving bios of speakers. Really nice job.
That's an interesting thing that we learned almost by mistake. One time we did this briefing that we had a lot of different speakers. And then after we looked at it, oh my God, we invited too many people. Is it going to be confusing? Are people going to be distracted? The opposite was true, which makes sense, right? You know, you're looking at something, you see multiple people coming in, different perspective, different cadence, different accents. And so now we have always tried to put together a nice roster of people that have something to say, and just we force them to say it quickly so that we move fast and people stay engaged.
Yeah, I tell people that when people come and say, hey, how did you do so many podcasts? And I'm like, well, first of all, John Troyer started it. I just picked it up after he got it going. But the key to doing getting good at something is, as you say, it's just you start and you're miserable. But then over time, you just get better and better and better. And pretty soon you get really good at it. And that's what I would say with the multi-cloud briefings is I look them now versus, when we started 3 quarters ago or whatever it was, maybe a year ago now, they've gotten really good. Yep.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. I think it's sometimes I refer to people that don't know how to do these things as marketing zombies, because these days and age, there's no excuse not to be able to get your word out to your audience in a very genuine way, because people buy from people listen to people, they want to know who's behind. And I think that too many executives these days have people managing their presence online, and you can tell from a mile away. That yes. I saw somebody is going to go unnamed from a big company, and I saw his tweets and that's not him. I work for that guy. That's not him.
Yeah, you can tell that. I tell people that. I'm like, well, social media, first off, is called social, which means it's got to be you talking to people, right? And then people talking back to you, right? It's not a marketing website where you just push out things. So really cool. We got to shift gears because we don't have you for that long. I wanted to ask you, in the multi-cloud maturity space here, now people are talking about it. I hear vendors starting to get on board with this, and this idea that, really, I am going to use multiple cloud vendors now. I am starting to look at architecting this because I'm beginning to realize that this is no different than trying to run things on an HP machine and a Dell machine, that all of a sudden you need a virtualization layer so you didn't have to worry about the hardware going bad. And you look at the clouds and the maturity of the clouds, and as the clouds mature, you realize that having a layer that lets you move across these clouds and be independent of the clouds is actually pretty interesting. But there's also just a lot of plumbing that goes on there too. So where would you judge the industry is now, since I think I maybe talked to somebody from multi-cloud 6-7 months ago, how do you think it's going?
I think that we are, in terms of using it and starting to feel the pain, we are advanced. Because 3/4 of our customers are using multi-cloud. 83% of them are looking for more consistencies. People see the challenges with security, with training, and all that. In terms of people moving from, I think that the stages of multi-cloud, I like to joke about it. That is like denial.
Right. I can just stay on AWS, leave me alone. Right?
Yeah, I just know it. Then euphoria. They go, oh my God, look how quickly we build application. Look how, we don't have to run our hardware, that's great. And then it's they start to realize that the challenges, and they go in depression. And then finally, eventually they come out and say, okay, now I need to get smart about this stuff, right? And so right now, I think a minority of customers we're very, very early in the number of customers that are looking at multi-cloud and say, "Oh, yeah, got it. This gives me competitive advantage. I see all these different capabilities for the hyperscaler, but now I'm building this layer, or I'm buying this layer on top that allows me to build an application once, deploy it anywhere. Once the applications are deployed, being able to monitor them, optimize them, manage them, secure them, and so on and so forth. So, which is what the value proposition of VMware cross-cloud services. So I think we're very, very beginning. As usual, I think at VMware, we have a track record of staying ahead of the trends. And I think we saw multi-cloud coming early on. We were kind of busy still with being so successful with private cloud that, we let AWS and others, get the first great success, of course. But I think now we started to see the challenges of multi-cloud, and we made the investment needed to solve that problem, because that problem is not cheap to solve. You need a company like VMware to do it.
Well, the other thing that I realized, and maybe this is just an aha moment for me, was that the reason we didn't get into that business, the hyperscaler business, is it's a different business. It's running data centers. It's running massive data centers. It's a hardware business, right? It is a physical plant business. Somebody like Amazon, who has physical plants, who's really optimized at running physical plants really efficiently, hiring low-cost labor, right? Everything you need to run something very efficiently, a plant, is a different business. Then once that matures and you need a software layer that goes across them, that's where we shine in that space of building enterprise software, where we didn't shine building data centers across the globe operationally. And so I felt like it was a more natural fit for VMware to sit on top of the physical plant manufacturers, right? The hyperscalers, versus being in the physical business, but then offering a software layer on top that connects things like we did. We didn't make Dell servers. We didn't make HP servers. We didn't make EMC storage. We built the software that layered on top of all that. So I feel like for me, this is a better spot for us.
I never thought about it that way. I always thought about the level of abstraction and all that, but I never articulated the way you did, which makes total sense to me.
Yeah. All right. So now, okay. So we're getting maturity. Everybody's getting on the multi-cloud bandwagon from us. Let's talk about John Furrier and theCUBE and his super cloud concept. Articulate is that multi-cloud, but it feels like it's multi-cloud, but also neutral vendor kind of scenario. What do you see going on there?
Oh, here's the taxonomy. Taxonomy is that multi-cloud is the architecture, right? Multi-cloud is what people are going to be using for the next 15, 20 years. Then I believe that we were the first to identify the need for an abstraction layer that we call cross-cloud services. Right. And incidentally, the good news is that we were the first, but we're not the only ones. And so you see a bunch of companies out there touting similar concepts, like even competitors who are like HashiCorp, right? They're touting common management across clouds. And you have Snowflake, common data layers across all the clouds. And so the CUBE have been covering. Dave is a brilliant analyst, I think, because he has the insight, and the data to back it up. I really like his coverage. So I was doing research and running to their stuff, and they've been talking about the super cloud, which is this layer of abstraction that sits across every cloud and allows customers to make sense of multi-cloud. And so working together, we came up with this idea of because they said, look, the industry is moving this way. We were talking to HashiCorp, we're talking to Intuit, we're talking to Databricks, we're talking to all these companies that are seeing the same challenges and bringing a solution out there. And so on August the 9th, they're going to host an industry event that they call the Super Cloud 2022, where they're going to bring together an incredible roster of presenters that are going to talk about the challenges of multi-cloud and the emergence of this super cloud that we called VMware cross-cloud services.
Nice. I'm looking up the URL as we speak on that one, the super cloud. August 9th, 2022 super cloud. It looks like it's going to be a virtual event. Is that the play?
Yeah, it's live. It's a virtual event. It's live from their studios from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have the agenda basically starts at 9 with an opening and kind of a kind a keynote type of thing of session to set the stage. Then we have a fireside chat. We're gonna have Greylock, our good friend Jerry Chang from Greylock and other in a fireside chat. Then they're going to talk about the open supercloud. Right? If the supercloud emerges, do we need eventually to have standards to make all
Right.
this work? Then there's going to be an analyst panel. Then there's going to be a section on security. There's going to be one around Kubernetes, and is Kubernetes the proper lingua franca for the supercloud? Then we're going to talk about architectural model, and then there's going to be a close. So it's a great agenda, and the speakers is just like phenomenal, like Greylock, Confluent, LastPass, of course VMware, Snowflake, Intuit, Oracle, Couchbase, HashiCorp, Atlassian, Sky High Security. It's just phenomenal.
So this really is a play for the vendors providing solutions to actually come together and have discussions around, the interconnectivity, what's the definition of the supercloud over time, and how these things play together. And then, as you say, like even the idea of spinning up some standards bodies to build the necessary standards to make all these solutions interoperate. So it sounds like solution people having conversations around how to make this happen.
Yeah, we are looking at getting some customers there. It's just I think that the Cube wants to make this a quarterly or every 6 months type of event, and so I think this one may turn out to be just setting the stage. What are some luminaries in the field across a variety of different vendors? How they share a common vision of the future, and then we're going to bring the customers maybe in the next event. But I think they're still trying to get. The problem is that again, there's so much you want to squeeze in that.
And it backs right. It's almost like a precursor event to Explore as well, right? So it's kind of like a nice thing they're doing, fit in this time slot of before Explore, right, for us. And I know we're just participating in it, but it's kind of like, yeah, how do you get another day in somebody's calendar during the August, September, October timeframe? So
but we thought the timing was great because this allows us to show the market that this is not just VMware touting this cross-cloud services solutions and the challenges of multi-cloud, but it's a bunch of different luminaries in the industries, and then we can go to market a month later with what is our solution, a new announcement around the cross-cloud services. So that's kind of timing is perfect.
So ticking through, I know this is just a change of topic, but ticking through the cloud vendors that we support these days, right? Alibaba Cloud, Oracle Cloud, IBM, Azure, Google, and Amazon. Am I missing any of the other ones? Right? It's like I almost feel like I need to be on a mail pinger for the number of clouds that we sign up now and then. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, we have 6 major one, right, that you mentioned, but then there's 4,500 partners that run our cloud.
Like Rackspace and others who offer solutions that are running the VMware Cloud Foundation stack, right?
Right now, we are really the only kind of cloud vendors that allows other people to run our bits, right? So it's a strong value proposition, both from a partner's perspective or from customers, because if you've been using our stack on-prem for a while and you're now moving to the cloud and you're in Europe or in Asia Pac, you need the local, the sovereign cloud type of solution. Our partners can provide it with the same stack on both sides, which is compelling.
And then the plus stack kind of plays into this, because then you get like a console where you're able to watch what's happening with your VMware Cloud Foundation instances across multi-clouds. We SaaS service that. So you just, point your browser, plug in your vSphere connectors, and away you go, right? So I feel like there's a piece of that.
I think that's one of the reasons why I love our engineering team. It's the pragmatism, right? to be able to go to a customer and say, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey to the cloud, we can add value every step of the way. We can help you turn your on-prem into a cloud. We can help you bring the management in the cloud, that we run it for you, we update it for you, you start to get that. You can start to move some workloads to the cloud using VMware Cloud and still have that common management. And you can also go all the way. That's the story that hasn't been told as forcefully or as clearly yet, is how committed VMware is also to native cloud. So we don't need to run our hypervisor to add value, because with Tanzu, with the management, service mesh, and cloud health, we give you, I think it's the most comprehensive way of building and managing any application on any cloud native. So
yeah, you definitely have that. I know that we're running up on the time before I think we're going to get our next guest in here, Pam Takahama. She's Senior Director of Cross Cloud Service Solutions. But before I let you go, I did want to ask, because we stream on vBarbecue, do you ever get to do any barbecue in the land of? Are you in Northern California still? Are
yeah,
you still
I'm San Jose. Yeah.
Right, so
Well, I just came back from a gigantic RV trip where I barbecue a lot, and now I'm not an expert, and I'm more of a baker, but as I spent the last 20 years of my life in America, I pick up some barbecuing, and my go-to barbecuing is very simple, like a pepper and a lemon, and 4 minutes per side. Boom. That's
lemon. And what are you making? What are you doing?
Usually I do prime rib.
Prime. Oh, that's new. Prime rib. I'm gonna have to take that. I was waiting for you to say you can make Italian bread on your barbecue, and you put.
Well, I do. I have made pizza on the barbecue, which is I can actually do it with the pizza stone.
Yeah.
But given that I have a brick oven, I don't.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. That's silly, right? Yeah. Of course, you have a brick oven. Right? Do you have a brick oven inside or outside?
Outside.
All right, thank God. I was gonna wait for you. I was expecting you to tell me you have one built into your kitchen, like El Forneo or something, right?
I thought about it, because there is a great company in Italy makes this beautiful brick ovens that you can put inside, but I never got to it.
Never got to it. So as you come through the back half of the year, we always ask these guests that when you come into the back half of the year, if everything went perfectly, what would be your outcome for the rest of the year? Have great VMware Explorers, pick up some extra customers. Where do you see us headed? What are your challenges?
I think that my biggest thing is that I am comfortable, I've been being a VMware a long time, breaking new glass, right? Breaking new ground. We did it with utilization. I remember when I was here the first time around, going around and telling people that they can virtualize SAP and Oracle. When people say you got to be crazy to do that,
right? I remember.
I'm comfortable with that, but I have to say, with multi-cloud, we've been pushing this narrative, empowered by what we hear from customers, for a few years. And so, to me, this year, going with the Super Cloud event and then Explore, the perfect end of the year is to start to see the mainstream analysts turn around and say, yeah, there's something there. There's a new market. There's a new way of doing it. Because look, I love analysts like the next guy. But at the end of the day, the people that are driving the industries are great vendors listening to innovative customers. That's how that, and then the analysts come along, right? And so I think seeing the Super Cloud event coming together with all these great customer partners makes me hopeful for an end of the year where people start to talk about the Super Cloud or whatever they're going to call this market as a real thing that is going to create the next big wave of innovation for our customers and growth for us.
Excellent, excellent. So your goal would be for the analysts to come out and give us a quadrant and stick us over in make it an official quadrant, and then stick us over in the leading spot on the quadrant as always, right?
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice. Vittorio, thanks a lot for coming and spending a half an hour with us. I appreciate it. Go get yourself some good barbecue for lunch, and thanks for joining us. And
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
yes. Pam,
Hi.
thanks for joining us. Let me do a little bit of an introduction here. Pam Takahama has joined us, Senior Director, Cross Cloud Solutions. Welcome to the Community Podcast.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've ever been on the Community Podcast.
I don't think so, Eric. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. Well, I find the whole space super interesting. Super Cloud, the Cube, and the guys that are creating that, and even what we're doing, creating a whole market out of this software solution that we've been building for a while. So it's super cool to have you on. We always start with introducing. We are a community podcast. We like the community to get to know you and spend a little time listening to who you are. Most people are on iTunes, listen to us as a MP3, so you don't really have to worry. We only get like 100 people look on the camera. But what I would say is, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? How long have you worked in the IT industry? What has been your career arc, since you maybe, graduated high school, whatever it is, and tell us how you got here. You get like a 3-minute elevator pitch of who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. Yeah. So, gosh, I've been in it forever.
Forever. Right.
I remember, we used to call them compact toaster ovens, right?
Right.
And
now they call them air fryers, right?
that's exactly right. So yeah, I mean, what I would say is I cut my teeth at Microsoft. So I was at Microsoft in the days where we would literally chauffeur Bill Gates around with us. So
Nice.
this goes back to the 90s. I was there for 10 years, and it was just an incredibly exciting time to be in the industry. Things were just burgeoning. Microsoft was definitely not a household name. Worked in a variety of marketing related roles there at Microsoft, and then just really, over the years, just kind of went in and out. And I had a couple of kids, sat out a couple of years, but really couldn't stay away much longer. Went back in with a bunch of a few ex-Microsofties to do. We wanted to start something around foundations and nonprofit world. So did a little bit of startup work, and then really continued back into the corporate world. I worked at companies like Autodesk, Riverbed, Blackbaud. And then, I'm what you would call a boomerang employee here at VMware. I was with VMware back in the business unit some years ago, came back, such a great company, and I've been here in the last 7 years. So with that said, I've always considered myself a marketing generalist. I've worked in so many different roles, Eric, in marketing, and now really love leading our content and messaging team around our portfolio and industry. So there you have it.
That's neat. I got to say that I came out of college and went to work at IBM in Boca Raton, where we had hired Microsoft to do an operating system. And this is back when they were still doing MS-DOS versus DOS versus
OS2.
OS2 and the PS2. What was the name? No, that's the
the PS1 and PS2, right?
PS1 and PS2, and then there was I worked a little bit on the PC Junior, which was the little chiclet keyboard one, and so I spent time at Boca Raton and IBM until then I moved on as well, and then ended up coming to California. But always fun to see somebody that lived through the Microsoft days and the early days.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I kicked myself for not just going to Microsoft and working there, because I would have probably been worth $1 billion by now, because I drifted around on the fringes of all that and never got a clue that I should just go move to Redmond and work there. I was living in Boca Raton, Florida, and I'm like, I love Florida beaches. Why do I want to move somewhere up north where it's cold? And
I know. I was in Northern California, and they wanted me to move up north as well. I went up there. I actually accepted a job. We were looking for an apartment, and then I just got cold feet and decided I wanted to stay in California. But in any case, great time at that company, and happy to
So in
Yeah.
the multi-cloud space, we got done talking to Victoria, which is super high level, Vittorio, super high level concept, kind of classic marketer. But when we come to you, you're building content. You're trying to build, content for people that are digesting our products. What are you thinking about for Explore this year? Have you guys put together content for it? And what is the kind of the summary of what type of content you're building?
Yeah. So yeah, we're putting together a ton of content for Explore. So there are 8 big keynotes at the Explore session, and we're developing the content for 4 of them. And the reason is, Eric, is we really want to tell our story to the market, right? And we want to be consistent, right? It's not like we're zigzagging inside and out of our story or messages. It's been pretty consistent. Our go-to-market has been very much focused on this notion of it's a multi-cloud world. Customers are there. They've embraced it in significant ways. And it's proven to really boost the business in many ways, right? Helping increase revenue, employee experience, ability to move faster and be more agile. But with multi-cloud comes some new challenges, right? Around security, around management across different clouds, around networking and performance and more. So with that said, we want to bring our story around how can VMware help customers in this multi-cloud era. I mean, multi-cloud is not new, right? We're not delivering and adding to the multi-cloud pile. We're actually trying to simplify multi-cloud for our customers. They have embraced it. So how can we make it simpler and better? And how can they derive the ultimate ROI out of their multi-cloud strategies and investments? So with that said, our keynotes are centered around what is our story around cross-cloud services? How can our portfolio of solutions really help address the multi-cloud world? And then we're going to take 3 of the keynotes and dive deeper into modern apps. How can we help customers embrace the cloud native world? How can they build, develop, and manage these cloud native apps faster in the public cloud? Secondly, cloud transformation. Look, cloud. We talk about it all day long, but the reality is many customers are still in the private cloud. Many customers, for different reasons. It could be that app needs to stay secure and centered in the private cloud. It may be that moving to the public cloud is just proves to be too hard, right? So the cloud transformation keynote is how do you embrace this dual world, right? With your apps across everything from a private to a public to the edge environments. So we'll talk about that, the challenges customers are facing, how can they accelerate if and when they want to move to a true public cloud environment with their apps. And then lastly, we'll touch on in our 4th keynote on end user computing solutions, because at the end of the day, right, it's your employees that are really driving your initiatives. How can you make them happier? How can you give them the tools they need when they need it? So quite a bit of content around keynotes.
Yeah.
In addition, we have a couple of industry workshops because when push comes to shove in terms of the business, we really want to help customers understand more specifically how can we help their line of business managers? How can we help some of their executives make smarter decisions around IT? And so in order to do that, right, it's really getting into the bones and the details of their industries. What's driving healthcare? What's driving patient experiences? How do you address this world of retail in this new world or remote students? The world has changed, right, in many, 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 many ways.
Yes, right.
So the workshops related around the industries will get down to more business discussion related to industry. So that and excuse me, and lots more coming up at VMworld.
Yeah, I have a couple, thoughts or comments around the agenda. I get deeper dives, the keynotes, 4 keynotes, and the deeper dives. But one of the things that you said tipped me off, which is like, there's a lot of people that maybe like myself, I run vCenter, a server San Jose, I have vSphere, I have, 50 VMs that are doing various things. And like, I have AWS instance, right? And this is just a small version of this problem set, which is like, but when I go there, I get overcharged. I'm paying for services I aren't using because when I shut down a VM, it still charges me because I'm using storage and I get these bills. And so like, there seems to be like a trade-off between running cloud, running multi-cloud, expenses, and where do I, as a customer, figure out where that threshold is? When does it make sense to stay where I'm at, right? That it's not going to be worth the investment to try. And then I could argue that you could even say there, if you're only going to have 2 servers, don't even put vSphere on it. Just run the 2 servers, put your Linux on it, and be happy, right? Like, you don't need to cross over to vSphere until you get 10 or 20 VMs. And then when you get, then once I get 50 or 100 VMs and I have dynamic workloads, maybe I should augment that with cloud. So I feel like there needs to be that roadmap of it's okay to run your own data center, and here's when you want to do that. Then there's this threshold that you might cross where multi-cloud starts to make sense.
Absolutely. I mean, you kind of hit it on the nail there, Eric. I mean, the reality is, a couple of things. One, that's where, an organization like VMware, right? We call ourselves sort of the Switzerland of the clouds, right? We have solutions that span across it all: private, the different public clouds, the edge, right? So we're really helping customers make smarter decisions, because you're absolutely right. Like I said earlier, there are lots of customers that still have their apps in the private cloud for very good reasons, right? Now, it could be that, it's related around security and compliance. It could be that it's challenging. So at our Explore conference, there's a range of content that will be available, from the higher level, helping think about the business at large, thinking about industry trends, into the deeper dives in terms of what do I do, when, where, and why, right? So, you have an app in your private data center. Maybe that's where it just belongs, and that's okay. There's so much dialogue about cloud. I mean, the reality is private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, they're all relevant today. They really are. So it may feel like it's legacy because it's in the private data center, but it's not, right? It is true that many customers still have their apps there for lots of different reasons. So Explore is, one of the reasons we renamed the conference from VMworld to Explore is to not steep it just in our past, just into our core. We wanted to rename it so it had a broader appeal, because there's a wide range of customers, a wide range of initiatives that they're thinking about. And with our portfolio and breadth of solutions, we can help customers in different parts of their journey.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it just transition to another question I have, which I think, which is, so we got cloud, but we also talk about SaaS, right? And we just talked about vSphere 7 Plus, that is kind of a SaaS dashboard that runs things and then helps you manage SaaS licenses and SaaS versus subscription. What is the industry saying, or what is our customers saying about this notion of transitioning to like a subscription SaaS model, and how are we doing there? What's the messaging that we're taking to people? And then once you get there, does that allow me to get into cloud easier if I transition into kind of the licensing model of charging me as I go kind of scenario? How do you see this being accepted by our customers?
Yeah. If you think about it, in our day-to-day life, right, outside of our work lives, we live in a subscription world. That's just the world we live in. Think about, your cable service. Think about your streaming service.
No, I have stacks of CD DVDs, and I have a wall that I'm never going to Netflix. I'm just going to stay with DVDs forever.
I mean, it's just the way of life. I mean, yeah,
I had to hunt for a DVD player the other day, and I'm like, I don't think I even have a working one left. Right? Like,
oh my goodness. What about those Blu-rays? Anyway, so, outside of our work world, we live in a subscription world, right? Whether we like it or not. For me personally, when I think about that, just set aside work for a second, I'm fine with it. It's just the world we live in. Where it does scare me a little sometimes is it's very easy to lose track of. I mean, I cannot name every single subscription I have to everything I have, right? Whether it's Audible. I mean, there's so many out. That's just the way we run our lives. So when it comes to the corporate world and the shifting patterns of how we package and price, I think it's the inertia, right? We're used to living in this world of ELAs. in this world of perpetual, revenue, that's where it's tricky, because the reality is you're still getting the great innovative products you come to expect. And in fact, in a subscription SaaS world, you get them faster, and ultimately, it's just going to be easier.
Yeah.
So I think it's just understanding, what does this mean to me? You become a little bit blinded, not literally in terms of not knowing, vendors not sharing what's going on. It's just more, you don't know, right? You don't know, how do I track this? What does it mean to my bottom line? How do I
Right.
know what's getting used? And how do I know how much I'm going to get charged, or if that's going to spike? So I think it's the not knowing more than anything. But let's face it, I mean, companies, software companies have been moving in this direction for many, many, many years. So,
Yeah.
it's
I think you hit the point, which is there is challenges, but if you overcome those challenges, there's a lot of benefits to it, right? The challenges are budgeting, trying to figure out what you've
Exactly.
got where, how much. Now, in the end, it's still kind of cheaper, right? I look at my dad used to say this, how you're making money, Eric? Well, you look at the bank account at the end of the year, and if it's bigger than it was the last year, that's how you know. You can count it all the way, and you can try to keep spreadsheets and everything, but the truth is, and I feel that way about SaaS services a little bit, like I have SaaS services, but I look and my overall cost, even though I'm not managing them properly, I'm still saving money. It's still cheaper, right, than it was before, when I'd have to go buy servers and do things.
Exactly.
But it's still very unnerving to not be able to know what's actually going on.
And you have to look at the hard costs, and you have to look at the soft costs, right? Because eventually, as you get more comfortable with this pricing model, right, you're just going to think less and less each time, things come up for renewal, or these big contracts come into play. That's a lot of time and energy.
Right.
So yes, I think ultimately, we're not obviously the first company to go in this route. Luckily, we're riding this wave, and customers are used to buying this wave from large enterprise software vendors like ourselves. So
there is a little bit of work for the IT practitioner, our audience that listens to these podcasts, is that there is some work in transitioning license management and order processing in order to move to SaaS, right? There is some upfront work that needs to happen in order to do that, right? But then, all right. The other thing is, I will tell a story. Like, people forget that when the servers reach their end of life, the 3 years, you have to unrack them and put them in a pile and dispose of them somehow, right? And at Sun, when we used to do this, we used to have to have giant mountains of servers in the corners, right? And clean sweeps, right, where they'd come through. We put them in the bottom of stairwells, and they'd come through and pick up all the old gear and sell them for scrap metal or whatever. And what you realize is that as you move into the SaaS world, you're not needing to decommission hardware and put them in stacks. Somebody does that in the cloud, but us as IT practitioners, don't need to be doing that anymore.
Right.
And there are these savings, not only in maybe license costs or consumption, because you're paying for it, but you're also saving money in needing to spend Saturday afternoon unracking machines and putting them in the corner somewhere and putting them in parts. So it is an interesting, but it is, I think you hit it right on the head. It's unnerving, because if you don't have good visibility into everything, it's scary to know that something could happen, that you could be overcharged or charged, like somebody forgets to. We've had the experts have called us, and they left something running for 2 or 3 months on one of our SaaS air, and they're crying because it cost them $12,000. They didn't have the money. So there's a little bit of a nervousness about it, because you have these things that are not controllable, which I think is why having our multi-cloud services in there gives you that single pane of manageability, which I think is actually nice to have.
Yes, agree.
I know that let's see. I got how is industry action to transition? We did that. The
barbecue.
No, we're not ready for barbecue yet. VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation, right, and Rackspace, and these traditional. What do we have, like 40 or 50 traditional rack vendors that offer me this type of service. How are they coming along with regard to the hyperscalers? And, now we have multi-cloud services. Are they on board with the whole transition, to multi-cloud easy? Because to me, to some degree, I would think if I were Rackspace or some of these others, I'd want to be super sticky and not let you leave once I got you into my cohab environment. Like, where is the rest of our traditional VCF industry moving? Are they moving along with this journey?
No, I think it's like anything else. I mean, including VMware, right? We all have to evolve to stay relevant in the high tech space, right? I mean, if you
It's called tech for a reason, I guess, right? Yeah.
If you stay static, right, it's very hard to survive. So our partners have been great, very enthusiastic, very interested in what we're doing. I get pinged tons, right, from our community of partners and our ecosystem out there. So I think folks are really understand the reality of the market. They also understand the reality of, like I said, like we've been talking about, not everything's going to move to one place. This is not a one view only of what's going to happen, right? It's a hybrid world. So I think it goes back to the customer, really understanding what your customer is really what outcome are they truly looking for, and being prepared, right, to serve them in various ways. So I think that to me is the ultimate trick of survival here is if you understand what your customer needs and you're prepared as a company to address that need well. And sometimes what they need may be what you can offer them, and that's okay too. You have to be comfortable with that. But I think if our partners and even ourselves continue to be that trusted partner, that's the key there.
Yeah, I think that sometimes I get so hyped up, or at least in marketing we do, on everything that's new, that we forget that the bulk of everybody's still completely happy, running the way they're running. And that there are some cases where we're going to move a 30% of our workload, but that doesn't mean that the 80 or 70% of the workload still doesn't need to have new features and continue. And it's just this big arc of solutions that are moving along. And we tend to get so caught up in the next wave of what the new cool thing is that we forget that it's an industry. There's customers, there's huge investments, and that it all just moves forward at a stable pace.
Yeah. So, it's funny. I just went into, believe it or not, I still shop at Best Buy into brick and mortar. But what I noticed is that I don't know if they've changed their model, but I used to go in there and you couldn't find anyone that could really give you deep, good
knowledge on anything. Yeah. Nothing.
But I did notice, because I was looking for a new router, that I actually could talk to a rep that gave me great advice and actually knew the product pretty well. And he pointed me to something else, some alternative that I was looking at, just because he could help me understand the feature set. And I really, really appreciated that, because it wasn't about, let me sell you what we have. It was more about, let me understand what you're trying to do. And I can then recommend. And I think that just, again, it goes back to every company. Right.
Yeah, I look at that same thing. I've seen Best Buy do that, which is focus on the experience and customer service and what you're trying to get when you come to a brick and mortar, and then doing that really well. I think before the pandemic, the movie theaters started to get that, right, where Netflix was putting them all out of business. And so all of a sudden they put big seats in, right, and they made it super comfortable. And like, I can't do that in my living room. I do not have room for big lazy boy things that I could sit back and just relax and enjoy a movie in ultimate comfort. And they did that, and the business started to pick back up because they had found a way to offer value and transition into what we were, what we wanted as an experience for them. And I feel like every company has to do that a little bit, right? Where they have, if they're the VCF vendors, they'll probably finding things that customers need, then they can offer that and give them value.
It's funny, Eric, we used to call that the popcorn. So at Microsoft, it was sell them the popcorn, which was sort of the surrounding extraneous, whether it's services, right? Or maybe it's that extra, whatever they might need.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, we what's the British movie? I forget the one that was on the Netflix show that they turned into movies with all the castle with the gosh, I remember the show. Everybody will know that show. They were listening to the podcast will know the British UK set in the 20s and 30s. Downton Abbey. There we go. So
Oh,
Downton Abbey, I went and watched the Downton Abbey movie where we went in and they had service. They had like valets that would bring you food you could order. They had the laid back chairs, but then you could put your order in. You could they not only sold you popcorn, they sold you like food, right? And then they delivered it, and it was and alcohol, I think too, right? So there's
you got to have your cocktail, yes.
Yeah, that's right. There's nothing that. All right, now we're at the end of the hour. We got 3 minutes left, so we'll ask you the common questions. Are you on social media, Pam? How do people follow you?
Oh gosh,
No, she's like, no, don't bother me. I'm just a marketer. Leave me alone. I worked in Microsoft. I made my billions already. So now I just
no, that's so clearly my kids are all over social media, but I have to say I'm a little old fashioned in that way. I'm a little more reserved in that way in my general approach in life. So you won't find me too much front and center in social media. Occasionally I may pop in. Victoria, who you just talked to, is just constantly.
So you're old school, so I just tell them your phone number. It's 650-462-2525. Give Pam a call. She's old school. She's not going to be on social media, Twitter. No, just give her a call for that number right there.
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me through some of the traditional channels.
And then my other question is, because we are now at the last 2 minutes, and it is lunchtime here in California, and we do podcast where you can watch, and we'll look at what Pam looks like at VBarbecue, youtube.com/VBarbecue, BARBECUE. Go look at her, see what she looks like, so you can say hello to her at VMworld and tell her you saw her on the podcast. Barbecue, what do you get to barbecue? And if you do or do not, what is your favorite or not?
Now that I do. So for my fiance's birthday a couple years ago, I bought him a green egg.
Oh,
and
my wife was saying it's only the rich people in California that have green eggs.
I grew up with a green egg. So my father, it's green egg. It used to be called a komodo. It's a Japanese thing. So I grew up with a green egg, loved it. He loves to barbecue. So I thought, we're just going to go for it. This was during the pandemic because that's all we did was cook, right? In terms of we never went out. We just cooked a lot. So we introduced the green egg in our family and just haven't turned back. And we barbecue 2 or 3 times a week. Love it. Have perfected it in every way. So we have fun with it. And
what is your favorite thing to smoke or cook?
Oh my gosh.
Do you do pork? Do you do, I love those little pork sausages.
We do pork ribs a lot, salmon collars. It's a little tricky doing fish on the barbecue, but I would say pork is probably the common. There's one of my favorite recipes comes from a restaurant called Momofuku, and they do this. It's called a balsam pork butt, which is incredible. You leave it on there for 5 or 6 hours.
Nice, yummy. I did smoke fish on a Traeger. I have a Traeger, and I did smoke fish.
Oh, okay. So you're a Traeger boy.
And we did like 4 or 5 hours. And my father, growing up, used to buy smoked fish, and it was in a it was in a plastic wrap, with oil. And it must have been super expensive. We weren't that wealthy as a kid growing up, and so we would get little pieces of the smoked fish, and we made this smoked yellowtail. And man, it took me back. Yeah, it took me back just to taste the same. Salty. I think you brine it for like overnight, right? Yeah. So a lot of salt to it. And maybe that's why it was good. Tastes like bacon, but there you go. Yeah. Pam, thanks for coming and sharing what we got going on with multi-cloud at VMworld Explore. I appreciate that. Everybody go register VMware Explore. Pam Takahama, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. That was fun. Okay.
I appreciate it. Me too. We'll see everybody again next week. I think we are going to have John Furrier join us in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure who's on next week, but we'll be on every week, Wednesday, 12 to 1. See you then.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.